Hello, J to the fans. J to the man here, back at it again with the third installment of my J to the man Big Four. And this is one that I've thought about doing since last year, if you can believe it. One big ranking of all 55 movies that grossed $1 billion at the box office. This is a video I'm very excited to make, and half of these movies I had to watch for the first time, if you can believe it. These movies all vary in quality, of course, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't think some more than others exist just for the sake of being a hit. That's not the case for all of them, of course, and today I'm going to be ranking them all. And I must reiterate that half of these movies are ones I viewed for the first time, so there's a pretty big chance that some people are going to have a strong disagreement or two for certain parts of my ranking. And that's totally fine, just please don't attack me. These are all just my opinions, it's not that big of a deal. We got 55 movies to look at, so let's waste no more time and get started.
Endless trash!
I mean, what do you expect me to say? This is one of the worst Disney live-action remakes of all time, and one of the worst movies I've ever seen, period. Nothing about it works. The effects are groundbreaking, of course, but all the soul, heart, and creativity that went into the original film is completely lost here. The characters are all stiff and lifeless, the voice actors sound like they're just going through the motions of each scene, especially James Earl Jones, who really sounds like he's just phoning it in.
Is that a challenge?
Is that a challenge?
You deliberately disobeyed me. And what's worse, you put Nala in danger.
You deliberately disobeyed me. And what's worse, you put Nala in danger.
Everything the light touches is our kingdom.
Everything the light touches is our kingdom.
This is the worst $1 billion movie on this list by a landslide that, for my money, barely counts as one of the highest grossing animated films of all time. It's just pure, soulless, creatively bankrupt boredom. The Rise of Skywalker. Oh my god, what are we gonna do with you? Now, I didn't hate this movie as much as a lot of other people when it first came out. I thought it was a decent 5 out of 10. I guess my brain was playing tricks on me back in 2019 because wow, this movie blows. You know, it's times like this where I have no idea what to say about a universally loathed movie, considering everyone had already said it all already. It has a huge over-reliance on fan service. It abandons a ton of important plot and character development. It's always jumping to the next story beat without having time to breathe and let the story flow. The score is just a greatest hits medley with no new track to be found. What a complete mess. It's clear even from the very beginning of the new trilogy that the writers had no idea what they were doing and just did whatever they could to please the fans without putting in any sort of effort, especially when it comes to this movie. Don't watch it ever, trust me, you'll be saving a good 140 minutes of your time. Next! Jurassic World Dominion is a movie where Owen and Claire are dealing with their new rebellious teenage daughter, all the main OGs from the original Jurassic Park trilogy return, and also the dinosaurs themselves barely show up. So the dinosaurs having dominion on our modern society is basically non-existent. I can't even tell you any more other than that. All my thoughts are based on my memory from my one and only watch of this movie, June 10th, 2022. That's how instantly forgettable this movie is. There's some fun action sequences, and I guess I kind of like seeing Jeff Goldblum, Sam Neill, and Laura Dern again, but it honestly feels like a worse version of Spider-Man No Way Home when bringing them back. Fan service that's kind of novel, but with no reason to care about their existence. Why are they back? What purpose do they serve to the story? Questions I don't really want the answers to, because frankly, I don't ever want to watch this movie again, so let's continue.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Transformers Age of Extinction is so bad. I can't even put into words how extremely dull this was. The acting and dialogue between the actors is embarrassingly bad. No disrespect to the badass legend Mark Wahlberg, but I did not care for him here. There's little to no story to be found. I cannot tell you a single thing this movie is about. How is it that it's almost 3 hours long and nothing in it was able to grab my attention at all? I can't wrap my head around that. I went into this movie expecting to turn my brain off and have some fun with it, but by the time we get to the third act, I was already bored to death. This movie is so lifeless. Some decent action, but that's it. If the runtime was shorter, maybe I would have been able to somewhat stand it, but as is, I look at this movie and think to myself, Why does Michael Bay even bother trying to continue a series that lost its steam a long time ago? You want a good Transformers movie? Boom, Transformers 1. Trust me when I say you'll have a much better time with that than bothering with this movie. I'm sorry, but I really don't care for Aquaman. Some people kinda like it, and that's perfectly okay, but I was so bored by it. The CGI is embarrassingly bad, mostly when it comes to both the underwater world of Atlantis and some of the action sequences. The story is shallow and cliche, it's very simplistic for its heroes and villain, the acting is kinda stagnant, making for a really inconsistent film that relies so heavily on spectacle than substance. I didn't care for any of the characters, the motivations were super flat, there's nothing cool going on action-wise, it's just meh. The second film is pretty bad too, don't get me wrong, but at least there I had more fun with it, and some of it was more suspenseful. With this, I literally have very little intention of watching it again. If you like it, cool, I don't care. Minions, minions, minions. Look, whether or not you like these yellow creatures, you can't deny that they're one of the biggest and most recognizable animated characters in pop culture history ever since Despicable Me 1 was released. So I can kinda see why Illumination thought it was a good idea to give them their own movie. But that is absolutely the worst idea you could ever think of. Rule number 1 of storytelling is to never push comic relief characters as mains. The minions are designed to be comic relief. They're not meant to grow or learn any sort of lesson over the course of a story. They're just there to be stupid and deliver laughs. So when you completely ignore that rule and plug the minions into a story where they're supposed to be the main players, it doesn't work. As a result, you get a movie with stale jokes, bland characters, and zero emotion. On paper, it could have worked, but in execution, it did not. The Phantom Menace. So, it's no secret that the Star Wars prequel trilogy isn't really that good at all. I had seen the prequels before, but I hadn't gone back to rewatching them at all until I decided to make this video. I would say making this video in general was a novel choice, as it allows me to branch out a bit more and talk about movies I rarely review. Anyway, on to The Phantom Menace. It's not good, but with that said, I didn't dislike it as much as I was expecting. I expected something super unwatchable, but there actually were some things I liked in here. Like, the environments and backgrounds look very impressive, especially for 1999. There's some unique character designs here and there, and a lot of the fight scenes are well choreographed, even if some editing is a bit dated. Jar Jar Binks and Anakin are annoying, but also kind of funny. I don't know, I enjoyed these parts quite a bit, and they kind of made up for the lack of interesting story and conflict. So overall, dumb movie that isn't good, but I was pleasantly surprised that I didn't totally despise it. Despicable Me 3. Yeah, this one was kind of boring too. It's only 80 minutes long, but it feels like nothing ever happens until the end. All the stuff Gru and family get into all feel like pointless meandering for the sake of pointless meandering. I didn't hate Gru's twin brother, but he didn't grab me either. Gru himself has no arc. The villain has literally nothing to do, and his supposed rivalry with Gru is non-existent. So for most of the movie, nothing really happens. Don't watch this one, it's not that great, but at least it wasn't as boring as Minions. That's a plus, I guess.
What do you mean,
Oh goody, more Star Wars. Look, I don't have a strong distaste for Last Jedi as much as a lot of other people did and still do, and even I was left frustrated and confused with what the point of it all was. So much stuff in the middle has the most nonsensical things happen for the sake of plot. It also doesn't help that I didn't find a single character relatable or interesting. I don't care about Rey, I don't care about Kylo Ren, I don't care about Finn and Poe. Even Luke Skywalker, the one character that this movie's entire plot hinges on, has nothing going on in terms of compelling drama. It's not as terrible as Rise of Skywalker, but it's absolutely not reaching the top of anyone's movie ranking lists. Pirates of the Caribbean is a first-time viewing franchise for me. Yeah, to be honest, I genuinely did not know anything about Pirates of the Caribbean until I decided to make this ranking. I hadn't seen any of the movies until now, and yeah, I can certainly see why the series became such a big hit, even though most of the movies aren't really that good in my opinion. One of the weaker outings of these is definitely On Stranger Tides. It's not terrible, but it's one of those movies that feels unsure of its own existence. There's no real compelling growth for the characters, especially Jack Sparrow, who feels like he has not much to do here. A lot of the humor is stale, the story is repetitive, the conflict is non-existent, it's just meh. It's no surprise that the franchise started to lose steam around this time, starting to retread familiar ground without much of the same flair, and you definitely feel that with this movie. But I do want to make this clear. I don't think this is the worst Pirates of the Caribbean movie. There are many others out there that are worse. I personally think Dead Men Tell No Tales is on par with Rise of Skywalker in terms of being a true worthless experience. This one is just... You know what? I'm not going to torture myself. Let's just move on. The Hobbit is another franchise I reviewed blindly for the first time. And yeah, I guess I can see why people like this franchise, but there's some really boring stuff in it. An Unexpected Journey isn't terrible, but I don't know, I didn't care for it that much. I've never been a big fan of movies that take place during Middle-earth. Those types of stories never really draw my attention that much. And yes, I am aware that the Hobbit film series is based off the Hobbit book series. And yeah, you can feel that here. Watching this whole movie, I was just bored. It's one of those examples where they take a small book and try to stretch it out to try and make it this grand spectacle, but it didn't really work. A lot of it is very slow, it takes forever for the story to get started, and when things do happen, they feel too big and don't mesh well with what they're trying to tell. It's harmless, I didn't hate it, nothing about it bothered me, it's just fine, it exists. Transformers Dark of the Moon. Definitely one of the better outings of the Michael Bay Transformers series, and was a much better watch through than Age of Extinction. It's also just kinda mid. Even this early in the game, you can tell this franchise was running out of steam. But with this one, I do think it at least had more of a clear conflict. A villain who's turned to evil is one I didn't expect. Probably the best third act of all the Michael Bay Transformers movies, with the most spectacle and tension to it, and in general delivering something that, while not good, has some substance to it. So while I still think this was a one-time viewing, I appreciate the effort. A pleasant surprise that I had a decent time with, even though it's not great. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I do like this better than Dominion. It at least has an actual story and the dinosaurs are more prevalent, but it still wasn't that impressive. There's no depth to the characters this time. Owen and Claire aren't that interesting. The direction feels off. It's got an incredibly weak story. And while we're on the subject of that, the story goes into some weird directions that don't really make sense. There's plot beats regarding laser-guided raptors, human cloning, terrorists destroying the dinosaur population or something like that. It is weird. Don't get me wrong, I like that it at least tried something new and had some new ideas thrown into the mix, but they didn't work that well. There's some fun moments here and there, as you would expect in a Jurassic Park movie, but it's still just kind of a dull addition to the series. Not bad, just could have been a little better. Captain Marvel sure is a movie. It's fine. I talked about this movie in my MCU ranking video, so I won't repeat much of what I said here. But yeah, I still think this is one of the more disappointing and clunkier films in the MCU. I still think they really half-assed Carol's journey. She's not funny or compelling, she's just a generic strong girl boss character. The rest of the story is just boring vignettes with uninteresting characters and no payoff by the end of it all. Again, I've talked about this movie before, so you can check that out on your own time. But yeah, not a ton else to say. Nick Fury has some funny moments, but not enough to maintain full interest. Alice in Wonderland, the live-action remake. I'm actually very nostalgic for this one. I remember watching it for the first time on Netflix before Disney Plus was a thing. I remember liking it to an extent, but nowadays, yeah, it's not that great. This is definitely one of those Disney live-action remakes that, while not bad, makes you question why it needed to be made. I'm not the biggest Alice in Wonderland fan, but I still liked what it was trying to be. Just a simple, fun, magical world of wonder. With this movie... Don't get me wrong, Tim Burton clearly has talent, but they were absolutely the wrong fit for this movie. All the magic and classic wordplay is completely lost in favor of typical blockbuster cliches, deconstructing characters and putting them in typical gravity-defying arcs that don't work or fit into the material they're trying to adapt. Not terrible, still not that good either. I gushed over The Dark Knight Rises when it first came out. However, I don't think it's perfect anymore. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's god-awful or anything. It's easily the weakest film in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy for sure, which is saying a lot considering how high the bar was set after the first two installments. I feel like a lot of the attempts to go bigger and more ambitious this time around, pulling in different plot points and whatnot, were kinda at the cost of a noticeably weaker plot, weird leaps in logic and weaker character development for Bruce Wayne himself, that by the time it ends, you're just left thinking, what? But when it does swing for the fences, it hits hard. There's still a lot of great performances, fantastic action sequences. Even despite its more messy story, it still delivers the fun you want to see. So yeah, overall a decent little movie. Aladdin 2019. As someone who loves the original Aladdin, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a salty butthole to its remake. I did not think it looked good from any of the trailers. I expected it to be especially bad. And after watching it, I have to say that Aladdin's live-action counterpart is not bad. It's pretty decent. Yeah, Will Smith will never top Robin Williams as the genie. Yeah, some visual effects here and there are kind of bad. And yeah, some of the songs are kind of cringe to the point of being comical. But I don't know, I didn't dislike this movie that much or found anything super infuriating. In particular, I think the choreography is top notch. It makes the musical segments and action sequences more creative. It's also very well acted for the most part. There's some elements in the climax from the original that were changed here that I liked, and yeah, overall I think this is a decent, harmless, inoffensive little movie. It will never top the original, obvi, but there's some good stuff here to balance out the bad. Feeling a decent 5 out of 10 on this one. I don't have much to say about Frozen 2. This is another one I reviewed before, literally last month. So, to make a long story short, when this is the best we can expect from a sequel to one of the highest grossing animated movies of all time, I think that's a pretty bad sign. And it's frustrating because it could have worked if approached properly, but as is, no, it's not great. Moving on. I have pretty mixed feelings on the live action Beauty and the Beast. I do think it's very well acted, some of the original songs are well choreographed, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't like the new song they added in, Evermore. But there's also some additions to the story that are extremely bizarre and super out of place in terms of the movie they're adapting. Like, why is there a dose of the Black Plague added in? I don't understand what that added. Oh, and of course what this asshole says.
Teaching another girl to read isn't one enough.
You know, Amy, anytime someone calls attention to the breaking of gender rules, it ultimately undermines the concept of gender equality by implying that this is an exception and not the status quo.
Once again, I don't hate this movie. There's some good stuff sprinkled in that I like, but preferably speaking, if I'm in the mood for Beauty and the Beast, there's no reason why I would choose the remake over the original. Rogue One is one of the weirder Star Wars things to come out. I don't really have a lot to say about it. It's okay, it's fine, it exists. The story is fine, the characters are fine. I didn't dislike any of them, but nobody grabbed me either. To be fair, I do think the climax in the last 10 minutes is really suspenseful. The action in general is stellar. I also just want to say, I don't know why, but I always found it funny how Chirrut Imwe says, "I'm the one with the Force and the Force is with me." I don't know if it's the way he says it, but I just thought it was so funny. Yeah, nothing else to say other than that. It's not amazing, it's not terrible, it's okay. Dead Men's Chest is easily the best Pirates of the Caribbean sequel. I mean, it's still not that good, but it's still decent. I feel like this movie falls into some of the same trappings as Dark Knight Rises, where it tries to amp up the stakes of its predecessor and tell a bigger, more ambitious story and kind of missing the mark. It adds some new stuff into the mix, it tries to expand the universe and its mythology and whatnot, but it eventually becomes very convoluted and messy and doesn't quite deliver the same fun experience. Certain sequences here and there definitely go all out, but that's it. An okay movie, much better than On Stranger Tides, but if I'm in the mood for a good Pirates of the Caribbean experience, I'm obviously just gonna watch the original, or go on the Disneyland ride for the billionth time, I don't know. Fast and Furious is a film series I'm very, very mixed on, because the quality of the movies vary drastically depending on who's making them and the decade they're attached to. There's no denying that the 2010s was the comeback decade for the franchise, whether the movies coming out during that time were good or bad. The Fate and the Furious is kind of the perfect example of an average blockbuster. It's a perfectly decent, harmless little watch that I had a perfectly decent and harmless time with. I do think it loses some of the charm of Fast and Furious in regards to its story, where Dominic betrays the family because of someone manipulating him to do so. It's a risk that I like they took, but when your franchise is centered around a man who's been there from the very start and suddenly a bad guy, Avengers Age of Ultron is another movie I don't really have a ton to say about. I don't dislike it, but I do still think it could have worked better. It has some of the same issues I take with Dark Knight Rises, but not as apparent. I still think its attempts to go bigger were kinda hit and miss. There's some leaps in the story to try to get from one plot beat to the next. It's solid stuff that I think could have been developed further. But I won't deny it has a pretty badass climax. A true robot riot here. Could have been better, but could have been worse. I've gone in depth before regarding the not so universally loved Iron Man 3, but save for its glaring issues regarding its rocky production history and its ill-conceived Mandarin twist, this movie really isn't that bad. I think Shane Black's style fits in well with the rest of the MCU and the particular story he's telling. There's a ton of memorable sequences, and Tony Stark himself has a pretty solid arc as his fears and doubts consume him. It makes for a pretty sympathetic and strong protagonist. I do think his arc is kind of overshadowed by the real payoff in Endgame, but it's still decent regardless. For all its flaws, it's a nice standalone story. Nothing amazing, but still decent. Furious 7, in my opinion, is where the Fast and Furious franchise should have stopped. This is of course the film where Paul Walker had tragically passed away, and I think the way they handled his death and how they went about changing everything was handled well for the most part and paid tribute to him in a way that was very special. That, coupled with of course the end credits song, it truly feels like the swan song for both the actor himself and the Fast and Furious franchise as a whole. With that said, I still think some parts of the film are kinda uneven. There's a ton of ridiculous action sequences and some clunky plot structure, but those aside, I think Furious 7 still works as a decent spiritual finale to the series. Far from one of my all-time favorite movies, but I still kinda dig it. Now, let's move on to the good movies.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Avatar, the single highest grossing movie of all time. People loved this movie when it came out in 2009. Everyone was gushing over it. And then the years went on and everyone just kind of stopped talking about this movie. I've asked friends of mine on multiple occasions if they even remember Avatar, and their main response is usually no. Personally, I think there's a lot to love about this movie. On a technological level, James Cameron really steps up his A game with all the motion capture and the photorealistic environments. It makes for such an immersive experience that takes you into this world that you want to spend time in. But on a plot level, with Jake Sully meeting a native woman who changes his outlook on the world and chooses to abandon his peers to stay with her, yeah, the story is just Pocahontas again. Same beats, same story, same characters, all that. Not saying Pocahontas was good by any means, I think this is leagues better than Pocahontas, but it still felt very obvious. For the most part, a fantastic film from a technological standpoint, while not particularly standing out in terms of plot. And I think that's why a lot of people fell out of love with it. Not bad at all, I still think this is good, but definitely could have been better. Lord of the Rings is another film series I watched for the first time. I didn't care too much for the first two films in the original trilogy, but I did find myself enjoying The Return of the King, the grand finale. It's massive in scope and size, while also being very personal when it comes down to the emotions. There's a solid balance between the story and the characters, and it makes you feel for both of them. The action is exciting and gruesome for the most part. All of it feels like a proper payoff to the trilogy. With all that said, I do think some parts kind of drag in the middle with some exposition fluff, but other than that, I thought it was good. It was definitely worth getting through the respectable but not super engaging first two films in my opinion, and it's very, very good, you should watch it. Frozen is another film I've talked about before twice. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's got a ton of really great elements and a ton of other not so great elements. It's good, it's not amazing, but it's good. I have vaguely fond memories of the 2019 Joker movie. I liked it to an extent, but I haven't gone around to re-watch it since it came out. Well, now that I know what a bad Joker film looks like, boy oh boy was I more than ready to re-watch the original in full. And yeah, it's pretty good. More than any other comic book movie that's trying to be the best event possible, Joker is very different, in the sense that it doesn't go for funny quips and gags, but instead gives us this character study of Joker and finds a way to make him a very sympathetic character. He's still the same old Joker, but now we get to see a reason as to why he acts the way he does, why he's a maniac. Unfortunately, what holds it back for me is some elements in the story kind of drag, and while I do like this as a standalone film, I wish Joker himself was more funny. I wish there were some instances where he totally 100% breaks out into this lunatic. That one scene where he shoots the news reporter is great, but I wanted more of that. Mid-story overall, but it's bolstered by an excellent score great cinematography, and an insanely committed performance by Joaquin Phoenix. Pretty good film overall, especially in comparison to its sequel, which deserves to rot in the depths of hell. I already reviewed Incredibles 2 in both my Pixar ranking and in its own video in my Pixar series, so once again I don't have anything else to add. I don't consider it to be terrible like a ton of other people, but I also don't think it holds a candle to the original. There's some stuff it does better, some stuff it does worse, but overall it's still enjoyable. I like it. I previously called Finding Dory the best non-Toy Story Pixar sequel when I reviewed it way back when, but now that a certain other non-Toy Story Pixar sequel exists now, I don't think that title quite holds up for this movie. That's not to say I don't think this is still one of the most underrated Pixar films out there. I still love how it handled Dory, its message about people with disabilities, etc. It doesn't all correlate into a masterpiece, of course, but it's a good movie that does a lot of things right that not enough people give it credit for. Really, really good and stuff.
Great!
I don't really know where to start with The Force Awakens. This is one of the most controversial Star Wars films out there. Some people call it great and one of the best Star Wars movies of all time. Other people dislike it and that it's just A New Hope again. Same story, same characters, etc. For me, this is easily the best film of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Yes, it is mostly just a retelling of A New Hope, but I think there are enough additional elements that made it stand out. It remains just as exciting and funny as it was 8 years ago. The New Hope retreading, to me at least, works because the script and direction give it a very different tone to that of the original Star Wars, even though they follow the same plot beats. Sometimes it does feel a little too formulaic to A New Hope, but for the most part, yeah, I really like this one. It would be placed higher on this list, but because of the existence of Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, it's staying right here. Okay, I don't know if this will be a controversial opinion or not, but I actually really like the original Jurassic World. Don't get me wrong, nothing will be able to top the original Jurassic Park film, but I don't know, this ain't nothing to sneeze at. This is a nice return to the Jurassic Park franchise, bringing it into the 21st century and delivering a riot of an experience. The action sequences are intense, the characters are both funny and likable, there's a cool dinosaur fight near the end, and yeah, overall I have a pretty great time watching this movie. It's definitely stupider and less logical, but sometimes that's my jam. If you just want to see dinosaurs running wild in an amusement park, and if you want to see a Jurassic Park sequel that's actually good, then this is the film for you. Barbie. Oh man, where do I start with this movie? This is by far the most fun movie of 2023. It's not something that's super deep or compelling, it's just a great and unique well-made comedy with great central performances by Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, a fantastic monologue by America Ferrera about the difficulties of being a woman, and of course, I'm Just Ken. Need I say more? I reviewed this movie last year, so you can check that out on your own time. But yeah, I still can't stop thinking about this movie. Easily up there as one of my top 30 favorite films of 2023. I'm just Ken, anywhere else I'd be a 10. Is it my destiny to live and die a life of blind fragility? Bye, 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 don't wanna be a fool for you. Just another player when you came into... Oh shoot, how much of that did you see? Sorry, I was too distracted listening to Bye 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 just now. Ever since watching Deadpool 3, I have listened to this song so many times I can't even count. And that just goes to show how much of a fun time I and a lot of other people had with this movie. From all the cameos, from all the gruesome as hell action sequences, this was certainly a treat. It really feels like a nice tribute / send-off to the X-Men saga, while also just being a fun Deadpool film on its own. Even putting aside its rather simplistic story and weak villains, this was a great time the whole way through. I still think this is the best Deadpool film, you cannot tell me otherwise. Avatar: The Way of Water is way better than the original Avatar. Once again, James Cameron knows how to deliver an immersive experience. The underwater world is incredible, and the aesthetics and backgrounds are impressive as usual. On a story level, I do think it is better than the first Avatar. It actually tried to give story arcs for Jake and his family. I like how it expands the world of Pandora, and the humans bring out some pretty sick tech during the climax. I still don't think it's compelling the whole way through, but it is a clear improvement. My biggest issue, however, is that this movie is too damn long. I mean, 3 hours and 17 minutes, did it need to go that long? Most of the middle chunk, while more interesting than the first film, starts to drag until the climax, which, while definitely way too long, is some awesome stuff. in general, definitely an improvement, but there is some stuff here and there that could have been better. I think it's safe to say that all we'll be getting from James Cameron will be Avatar sequels, and you know what? I won't complain. As long as it's something he loves doing, then fine. Just as long as the story and characters are good, then I'm all down for whatever. Prior to this year, I kind of grew out of Harry Potter. I watched the first, 4 movies back in, 2016, 2017 or so, and then just kind of stopped. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of these movies back then, but now that this video exists, I rewatched the entire series in full and gained a whole new perspective on it. These movies, with the exception of a few, are phenomenal, and Deathly Hallows Part 2 is excellent. I personally thought Part 1 was kind of set up for something really cool and exciting, but set up nonetheless. Wasn't really super interesting. Not this movie though. All of it really paid off for the most part. You get the last big battle of Hogwarts. You get Harry fully stepping into his role as a wizard. It's a movie that manages to work all of the elements of the last 7 films into one heck of a brilliant finale. You want an emotionally satisfying bookend to an ongoing franchise? This is one of many examples of how to do it right. Highly recommend this and the rest of the Harry Potter movies if you haven't seen any of them. I love James Bond, at least the Daniel Craig ones. Don't get me wrong, I've seen some of the really good Timothy Dalton and Pierce Brosnan ones, but the Daniel Craig ones are easily some of the best James Bond movies I've ever seen. And Skyfall, while not my favorite Daniel Craig Bond movie, is great. One of the reasons I like Daniel Craig's James Bond the best is because while he still is the same James Bond we expect, he's also very human and sometimes vulnerable. He has real struggles and motivations, and in terms of this movie, it does a solid job of showing just that. You see him as an actual person. There's some history regarding the spies that came before him. It makes for some really interesting storytelling that's all the while not being devoid of the insane fun action sequences you expect from a James Bond film. It's not my favorite Daniel Craig Bond movie, like I said, but it's a great time regardless. I already reviewed Black Panther in my MCU ranking, so you can check out my thoughts there. But yeah, it's pretty hard to deny how much of a success and impact this movie had. While it may seem like another typical MCU installment, it's so much more. It's a movie about what it means to be an African American in the world. Rather than stay away from complicated themes about race and identity, this movie grapples head-on with the issues affecting modern-day Black life. And that, coupled with its consistently entertaining, engaging, and dramatic tone, makes it, in my opinion, one of the MCU's best installments. I still think the CG and a lot of the action is kind of ass, but for the most part, this is a genuine triumph. Not much else to say. Yup, this spot goes to Zootopia. It's still really good and slightly underrated, and you can check out my thoughts on those previous rankings. Yup, it's Toy Story 4. This is another one I went into full detail on, so you can check out my thoughts there because this video is getting really long and I don't want to bore you with stuff I've already said. So go check out those videos right now. Thank you, Muppets Most Wanted, for teasing this movie. You knew from the very start.
While they wait for Tom Hanks to make Toy Story 4.
Captain America Civil War is simply excellent. It's one of the most thrilling and emotionally charged movies in the MCU that balances action, character development, and complex moral dilemmas very well. It skillfully weaves personal and political issues together, leading to an intense and emotionally resonant conflict that makes you feel for both sides of it. Because while both are wrong in the ways they go about their motivations, they're also kind of right. It really is a feat to pull off. Again, I've talked about this movie before, and my opinions have not changed. Definitely one of the smartest films in the MCU and well worth seeking out. The Avengers is the perfect team-up movie. After 4 years of not perfect but promising build-up, in comes this movie that pulls all the stops and all the setup is paid off in one heck of a brilliant, enticing, funny, emotionally charged final act. It's one of the perfect examples of a team-up film done right. There's not too much or too little of anything, it's the right amount. Other films have made bigger and more ambitious films like this, but there's no denying that The Avengers will always be the best. It's an MCU movie I'm very happy to place in my top 10. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is the one Harry Potter film I've seen the most over the years. And even around the time I wasn't caring for Harry Potter, I really loved it. And as a teen, I still think it's a really strong film and a more than excellent kickoff to the series. There's more of a playful and simple tone this movie has compared to the later films, but I personally like that. You're just wandering around the world of Hogwarts and discovering all the intricacies and mysteries this and the rest of the series moving forward will play into. It also helps that the director of this movie is the same guy who directed Home Alone, so you can really tell that he knows how to work with kids and add that fun factor to it while still feeling extremely dramatic and enticing. This might not be anyone else's favorite Harry Potter film, and that's totally fine, but I for one like this film the most out of the entire franchise. An easy Kickstarter to anyone who's interested in Harry Potter. Check it out, baby. I'm probably the biggest defender of this movie, and I bet a lot of people are gonna strongly disagree with this part. But screw it, Spider-Man Far From Home is honestly super fantastic. There's some really stupid moments here and there, no doubt, but for the most part, for this iteration of Peter Parker, this is kind of everything I could ask for. It's got a fun story, a nice arc for Peter, a unique and threatening villain, and a final reveal I still can't believe they went for and got away with. One of the most solid and underrated Spider-Man films out there. It's no Spider-Verse or No Way Home, which we'll get to later, but it's still great and really deserves more love. I will not apologize for how obscenely high I've ranked the Mario movie. I cannot think of any justification for putting it higher than the other movies that are ranked above it. All I can say is, out of all 55 movies on this list, this is the one I have the most fun watching from beginning to end. Yes, its story is very simplistic and there's not much time for things to breathe or slow down, but who the hell even cares? It's fun to watch Mario fight Donkey Kong and ride on the Rainbow Road and whatnot. It's hilarious seeing Jack Black Bowser singing about his love for Peach. It's a movie that knows how to deliver a fun experience for both kids and fans of Mario. And whether or not you liked it at all, you can't deny it has its many moments of engagement and excitement. Easily the best Illumination film since the original Despicable Me, and my personal favorite to come out of the studio. If you disagree, that's totally fine, but my opinion is not changing. Yup, it's Inside Out 2. I don't really know what else to say about this movie, so instead I'm just gonna give you guys a short review of the Inside Out Disney Plus series, Dream Productions. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a cute little mockumentary series of the film studio that makes Riley's dreams. It's as if The Office continued into the Pixar universe. And when a Disney Plus series gives me Office vibes, that's how you know it's a damn good show. Check it out if you're a big Inside Out fan like I am. You'll probably have a good time. Toy Story 3 is another movie I've talked about before in the past, so you can check my thoughts out there in my initial review. It's still phenomenal and most definitely where the series should have ended a long time ago. Stop milking this franchise, Disney. Do I have to spell it out for you? Top Gun Maverick, the superior Top Gun film. This is another film series I watched for the first time, and yeah, it's awesome! Except the first film. I don't really like the first film that much, please don't be mad. Its sequel, on the other hand, yeah, it's a masterpiece. It is just so good, so satisfying, so crowd-pleasing, so emotionally effective, so memorable. The cast is so fresh and likable, its usage of nostalgia actually enhances the plot, the action sequences and climax are insane and exhilarating. I could seriously go on about what makes this movie so great. It's one of those rare legacy sequels that's able to outshine its predecessor with flying colors and go down as an instant classic. Please check this movie out. You have no idea what you're missing out on if you haven't seen it. Titanic. Holy moly, what a movie. Of all the movies on this list, this is the one that I personally delivers the most emotion and immersive experience. It takes you back to 1912, and for the first hour or so, sucks you into the perspective of all these characters and what they see this supposed big journey as on the ship. And you're able to feel that sort of excitement, while at the same time, knowing where it's headed. And as you move into the second half, you feel the tragedy, the pain, the emotion, the scope of the situation. Everything culminates in some truly devastating and heartbreaking moments. It's a truly tremendously well-made film that balances excitement and devastation almost perfectly, even though I never want to feel the heartbreak it made me feel when watching it again. Boy, am I surprised Spider-Man No Way Home made it this high on my list, but damn it, it really is that good. Much like Deadpool and Wolverine, this was such a treat to watch in the theaters. This was a true gift to Spider-Man fans, where they found a way to pull in all the original Spider-Man heroes and villains into one movie and have it work. Crafting a story where they're integrated into the story in such a natural way and are given a proper send-off. not only to both them, but also this iteration of Peter Parker. It really is the best example of fan service and nostalgia done right, while also being a shockingly great original Spider-Man film in its own right. I know Tom Holland's Spider-Man series isn't over yet, but I seriously doubt 4 will be able to top what they did here. Please, for the love of Peter, watch it if you haven't already. It's no surprise that the MCU is kind of in a dire state, and I think we can all unanimously agree that no matter how many movies and shows they put out, they will never deliver the same impact we all felt watching Endgame. The decade worth of build-up, the investment in numerous characters paid off in such an emotionally charged final showdown. The first third does a really great job of showing the aftermath of the Thanos snap, and how all the characters deal with the loss of so many friends and colleagues. Then it jumps into the main plot that's all about time travel shenanigans that's both fun and heartfelt for several characters during their escapades, leading to the best last hour of the entire MCU. Hell, maybe the best climax in any movie, period. It was the best way to conclude such an exciting, action-packed, 11-year-long journey of all these characters we've gotten to know and fall in love with throughout its entirety. If the MCU really has run its course, the good news is we'll always have the Infinity Saga and this movie to look back on. But as you all know, it was slightly undone by a certain predecessor. Infinity War is simply phenomenal. After a whole decade of character development and story build-up, they pulled all the stops and delivered such a well-made, expertly written, consistently funny, shockingly dramatic, absolute masterpiece. It's one of the best examples of taking a rather straightforward and simple plot, finding a way to integrate all these characters into it all and execute it perfectly. I could go on and on about this movie, but I think you all know why it's a masterpiece. This movie is simply fantastic, easily my favorite MCU film of all time. The Dark Knight is the best Batman movie ever. This is Christopher Nolan's magnum opus. The acting performances in this film are truly as great as they come. The action and stunt work in this film is spectacular. The storytelling is some of the best in the history of comic book filmmaking ever. The characters are also real and well written, and the richly detailed world building surrounding Gotham City helps to make the film all the more immersive. It's all able to come together into this exciting and thrilling story with all the fun and emotion you expect. This is without a doubt one of the greatest films of the last century, even for those who are not fans of the superhero genre. It's a classic for a reason. Jurassic Park. Where do I even begin? This is easily one of my top 10 favorite films of all time. You got Steven Spielberg and John Williams bringing their A-game, creating such an unforgettable experience that blew everyone away. Even after more than 20 years, Jurassic Park hasn't aged a day, and still looks as breathtaking today as it was back during the time of release. The incredible dinosaur world, all the characters that bring their own unique charm and flair, the incredibly well-made and enticing action sequences, it does all of it right. Putting all these simple pieces together and delivering what is now one of the most influential pieces of art to come out of the medium of film. I've adored this movie ever since I watched it for the first time. I love it with all my heart. It's the magnum opus of Steven Spielberg. It continues to stand the test of time. It's gosh darn Jurassic Park. One of the greatest films of all time, as well as easily the best billion-dollar film. So that was my ranking. This was a long one, but I hope you enjoy it. Sound off down below in the comments what you thought of it, and if you have, share your list of all $55 billion movies. I'm very interested to see your guys' rankings. Thank you all for watching.